Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation. I am Pranav Das and today I will present about occupational hazards. Here you can see the presentation outline. First we will define what occupational hazard is, what are the types of occupational hazards, the prevention strategies and what are the roles of public health professionals in combating this issue, and finally the conclusion. So, what is occupational hazard? Occupational hazards is any potential risk that can happen in the workplace and can cause harm, disease, injury to the worker. So, the hazard has to be in the workplace. So, occupational hazards can be classified in various ways, such as physical hazards, chemical hazards, biological, ergonomic, and psychosocial hazards. Now, let's look at them one by one. So physical hazards are those possible risks that can arise from physical agents or any forms of energy such as noise. Loud noise can lead to hearing loss, tinnitus, and mental stress, and even can cause deafness. Uh, then vibration. If the worker is working in a environment or with a tool that is vibrating all the time, then it can cause musculoskeletal or nervous system problems such as hand-arm vibration syndrome. Radiation such as X-ray radiation and UV radiation can cause radiation burn, and the prolonged exposure to radiation can cause cancer as well. Electricity can also electricity can also cause burn, and in serious condition, it can cause electrocution. Extreme temperature, depending on the type of temperature, if it is extreme hot, can cause heat stroke, and if it is extreme cold, it can uh, cause hypothermia and frostbite. And atmospheric pressure, if the atmospheric pressure is dropping suddenly or increasing suddenly, such as in deep sea or aviation, it can lead to decompression sickness and barotrauma. There is another type of hazard which is called safety hazard. Some literature includes safety hazard into physical hazards, but in other literature they consider it is as a completely separate type of hazard, such as trips, slips, falls, vehicular accidents, or animal bite and scratch are also included in safety hazards or also as physical hazards. Now, chemical hazards, as the name suggests, any chemical agent that can cause toxicity or irritation in the body. Toxicity usually happens when the toxin or the chemical is absorbed inside the body systemically, and irritation usually happens locally. So, any medication, solution, gas, vapor, aerosol, or particulate matter can act as chemical hazards. Up next, biological hazards. Any biological organism or agent that can cause disease or harm for the worker is biological hazard, such as bacteria, Bacillus anthracis causing anthrax, virus, rabies virus causing rabies, parasite Toxoplasma gondii causing toxoplasmosis, allergen can be pollen, dust, pet dander, which is common, and it can lead to allergic rhinitis, asthma. Venom, snake venom, spider venom. Snake venom is more common and it can lead to tissue damage, paralysis, and even death. Then needle stick injury. Some might say needle stick injury can be also be considered as physical hazard, but the main concern is usually the biological agent because the physical damage is usually very minor, and it can lead to the biological agent or organism can cause bloodborne infections such as HIV, hepatitis B, and C. Then ergonomic hazards. Ergonomic hazards are those workplace conditions that can lead to damage or injury to the body, and usually these damages are musculoskeletal or nervous system damage, such as repetitive tasks. If the worker has to do same type of task and have to use same organ or part of the body, then it can lead to ergonomic problems. Awkward posture, if the worker has to if the worker is working in awkward posture or is always sitting in an awkward position, especially the people who have to sit in front of desk or in front of computer for a long period of time. Even students may suffer from this. Then forceful motion, sudden forceful motion can lead to musculoskeletal injury. Prolonged stationary position, such as healthcare worker, surgeons who might have to stand for a very long time, 2 3 hours, and it can lead to spinal problems or other sorts of problem as well, and direct pressure is also ergonomic hazard. And last, psychosocial hazards. So psychosocial hazards are those type of hazards that can lead to mental health problems such as stress, depression, anxiety, etc. And if we give few examples such as monotonous task, if the worker is doing a type of job that requires doing same sort of task every single day, then it can be boring and lead to mental health problems. Heavy workload, which is very common, especially if the worker has to do a lot of overwork, then it can lead to stress as well. Job insecurity, another very common issue, especially nowadays people are getting laid off uh, without any kind of notice. And with the rise of AI, we have seen a lot of laying off. So job insecurity is very common, especially in private jobs. Workplace harassment, it can be verbal harassment or physical violence, workplace violence. And difficult client interaction, if the worker has to deal with clients. Interaction with clients might also lead to stress or interpersonal problems. Now, if we look into the impacts of occupational hazards, first, if we look into the economic impact, it is reported that 5.8% of the global GDP in 2019 was attributed to occupational hazards, which is significantly higher from the 4% reported in 2003. And the health consequences are even worse because 3 million workers per year die each year, and every single life is very uh, is uh, so much valuable. So if you can imagine how much uh, loss it is. And regarding regional disparities, in a paper we saw that India and China had 10.4 and 10.5 fatalities per 100,000 workers per year, and in sub-Saharan Africa it was significantly higher, which was 21 fatalities per 100,000 workers per year. However, this data is from 2008, so it is a long time ago. So the current figures might be even higher, and uh, we need more studies regarding the regional disparities. Now, regarding the prevention strategies, first we need to identify the hazard. So, what is the hazard? What are the potential sources of that hazard, and what is the type of hazard? For example, if we notice a poorly maintained electrical wire on the floor, then identifying that it is a hazard is the first step. Then, after identifying that hazard, we have to assess the risk. For example, as we said, the electrical wire, faulty electrical wire, we have to assess what are the probability of any kind of harm happening from that wire, and what kind of severity that harm can cause. So assessing the likelihood and the severity of the harm is the second step, which is the risk assessment. Then we have to control the hazard. So regarding control measures, uh, we can see from the picture of hierarchy of control, elimination and substitution are the most effective strategies. Elimination means to physically remove the hazard completely, and substitution means to substitute the hazard with another less hazardous substance. For example, replacing toxic chemicals with less toxic or non-toxic ones. Now, elimination and substitution might not always be feasible. So in that case, uh, uh, we will take the engineering controls, which will require designing facility to prevent the hazards. So we will build equipments or infrastructure so that the worker doesn't get exposure to hazards, such as installing exhaust system to remove fumes. However, this might be expensive and not always be feasible. So in that case, we will take administrative control measures, which is less expensive but it is effective as well, because it will require the administration to employ uh, the work policies. So they will change the policy and ensure that worker abide by those rules and change the work practices. For example, rotating workers to minimize exposure and scheduling hazardous tasks during off hours, so they will get minimized exposure uh, from the hazards. And lastly, the least effective method is the personal protective equipments. So the administration should ensure that And the last type of occupational and then the last control measure is the personal protective equipment, which will require the administration to make sure that the workers wear glass, mask, helmets, safety goggles, apron, and other type of personal protective equipment that is required for their profession. Up next, the another prevention strategy that is very effective, however it is cost efficient, is the training and education, and it can be employed in academic or professional level. So what I mean by academic level is that before entering into the profession, for example medical professionals or veterinary professionals, if we educate them about the occupational hazards when they are in their academic program, then they will get the knowledge and awareness about occupational hazards during their student life. So they will be more aware of that when they enter into the professional life. And these students also have to do practical works and get exposed to uh, the uh, patients. So they are also at a risk when they are at student as well, so they need the training. And regarding professional level, obviously we need to employ training in the professional level as well, and this training and education can include hazard awareness, safety practice, standard operating procedures which they will do in a regular basis, and emergency response, what they need to do when there is emergency problems or hazard reports. Finally, monitoring and review, which is very important because regular inspection will give us the idea about if there is any occupational hazards in the work environment, and if there is any sort of occupational hazard or any incident of occupational hazard, the worker need to report to the authority immediately. Now, what are the roles of public health professionals like us to prevent this disease, prevent the problem or combat the problem? So first step, as we said, hazard identification and risk assessment. So in that case, public health professionals can play a big role there. And policy development and enforcement. So public health professionals are employed in this in the policy development often. So public health professionals have a role to play in that aspect as well. Education and training. Public health professionals are trained themselves, so they can train others as well. And monitoring and surveillance, they can also play part in their research and innovation, which is very important because I think when I did my thesis research on occupational hazards, I saw that there are very few research on this topic, especially in the developing country like Bangladesh. There is almost no research at all. So I think uh, emphasis should be taken in this aspect, especially in the research area. And emergency preparedness and response, what can be done, what policy can be employed in emergency situation, public health professionals can also make policy regarding that. In conclusion, we can see that occupational hazard is a big public health concern, and it is not only public health concern, it is also an economic concern as well. And there is no single solution, so multifaceted approach is needed to ensure safe workplace. And we as a public health professional has have a big role to play to combat the issue. So thank you for listening to my presentation.